welcome to From the Stands, the show where you get to know the fans' take on every play. My name's Courtney.
And my name's Kendall.
And we are so excited for this very first episode with you. On this podcast, we will be talking about some of our favorite sports plays, players, teams, some being historic, while some being more recent.
Yeah, and we are just so excited to start this podcast off with you. We're going to throw in some humor, some hot takes, and just about everything in between.
But we wanted to start off by saying we are not professionals in any way, shape, or form. So please bear with us. Please have patience with us. And enjoy the ride. Anyways, but before we dive in, we wanted to give you a little background on who we are and why we made this podcast. So I'll go first. My name's Courtney. We're both pretty local to Provo, Utah. But I'm in school. I have a year left and I'm studying sports media. And I work in sports media and sports is my life right now. So it just made sense to add on a podcast about sports. Some of my favorite teams, I love BYU. We'll be a little biased towards that. I love any Tennessee team. I'm also pretty biased towards that, and you'll find out more along the way.
Yeah. Awesome. And my name's Kendall, also, from around here. I graduated from BYU. I didn't do anything in sports, marketing or anything, but I just grew up watching sports my entire life, so I've been a huge fan. Definitely biased towards BYU, but I'm also a very big Philadelphia Eagles fan. As you can see from my jersey, I'm very happy about this Super Bowl. I also love the New York Yankees, the Toronto Raptors, so kind of all over the place. I am not a bandwagoner. As much as some people want to say that I am, I'm not. I've been a fan for most of my life with some of these teams, so that's a little bit about me.
Yeah. And hopefully you get to know us a little bit more as you listen to the podcast, and we're excited to get to know you guys. We'll explain that here later on. But you might be wondering, well, why would you two start a podcast? And it's actually kind of simple. One day we were just talking and I said, Kendall, I really want to start a podcast about sports. And then Kendall was like, well, do you want to co-host? And I said, well, yeah, because I could not do this by myself. And then we were talking and brainstorming about how we have a couple friends, a couple people who wish that they knew more about sports before they even watched the game. And they just need someone to explain the rules, explain the game, explain everything. And we're like, well, we could do that. And if it's a need within our little group, then there's probably a bigger need. So we started thinking about doing a podcast for the girls. And then we were talking to some of our guy friends about it. And we just got the most positive feedback about it. And we decided to expand it for everybody. I don't know, did I miss?
No, that was it. Just a big shout out to all of our friends and family for all the support.
Yeah.
So
much
hopefully we live up to your expectations.
So that's how we are right here. That's how we whatever. You know what I'm trying to say, hopefully. So now you know the history of why we are starting this podcast, but what can you expect from this podcast? So every episode our goal is to bring you fun insights, different ways to engage with it. We have different social media accounts and we'll be asking questions and we want it to be a conversation. And then maybe some fun surprises along the way.
Yeah, so we're also going to hopefully have some recurring segments where we can just kind of keep them throughout our podcast. Hoping some things like 30-second rants or Would You Rather Sports Edition, analyzing plays, maybe players who change the game. So kind of hoping to include these segments if you enjoy them. If you don't like them, then we'll just let us know and we'll take them out. But
and if you have an idea that you want us to do, please let us know. Again, we're not professionals. We've never done this before. So we're learning.
But feel free to ask us questions on our social medias, and we'll try our best to answer them.
Yeah. So that comes to like the main portion of this episode. And we decided that we would talk a little bit about our favorite plays from like the current season or like the last season, depending what sport we wanted to talk about. So Kendall, do you want to start us off?
Yeah. So I feel like, okay, obviously a huge Eagles fan. We just won the Super Bowl. And I feel like there's definitely several plays for me that were just so fun. I remember like I was watching it with Courtney and it was very intense. And I think my favorite play was my Cooper DeJean pick six play. I've been a really big fan of him since he got drafted to the Eagles, and seeing him get his first pick six was so incredibly cool. It was also, I mean, picking off Patrick Mahomes is pretty intense, and on his birthday in his first Super Bowl, like that's just a pretty cool opportunity. So I think it was something that definitely put in a swing of energy towards the Eagles and kind of, I mean, definitely solidified their drive to win. So probably my favorite play from the Super Bowl.
It was such an electric play to see, even though we weren't in Louisiana watching it, no matter how hard we tried. I actually didn't try a lot, but it was really cool to see, like, in that moment, at least for me, there was no screen. It felt like they're in the stadium.
Yeah.
And that kind of brings me to my favorite play. I'm going to talk a little bit about BYU football. If you're not a fan, why not? No, just kidding. Just kidding. But last season they did pretty dang good.
Yeah.
They had a really good record. They defeated almost all odds. And they won the bowl game. It was super good. So what's the favorite play? I found out I'm a punt return junkie. Any punt return, I was like, okay, BYU football posted a video about all the punt returns, and I'm so here for it. The first one I think of, Kansas State. That one was so good. It like textbook amazing. And then the scoop and score during that game.
I was kind of fun story. I had left to go do something and I came back out and was literally on like the sidelines as he scooped and scored, and I feel like I basically ran with him on the sidelines. Okay, I was like in the stands. But like I was like running, so anyone on the front row of that student section saw me running like an idiot. A very passionate idiot for BYU, but it was probably one of my favorite memories that literally right as I walked out of the tunnel to go back up to my seat, I was like, oh my gosh, like we're gonna score. So
that's amazing.
Yeah. Highlight for sure.
Dude, there were a lot of moments like that. And maybe the last one I'll say, because we gotta gatekeep a couple of my favorites for maybe future episodes. When BYU played, I think it was Oklahoma State. We weren't gonna win. Last minute. Jake Retzlaff was doing his very best, and we were inching our way up the field. And then Darius Lassiter catches the ball. And, like, I don't even know. I can just see it, He just does his thing, makes it into the end zone. The entire stadium was shaking. And everyone's, like, yelling, clapping their hands, like, whatever, like, celebrating, right? And I end up, like, doing, like, the mummy. And I'm just, like, it felt natural.
Yeah.
And I was sobbing. And it wasn't, like, oh, like, a little tear. I was, like, crying. And there were some guys around and they're like, she really crying? And I looked at my roommates and it was one of their first games. And she's like, oh, my goodness, like, you're crying. And I was like, I just, look at them. Like, they're celebrating. And so that will always be a favorite play of mine. And, like, favorite season.
Yeah.
BYU football carried my mental health on their back, and they don't know.
Yeah. No, I just remember, like, just being so proud, because I feel like a lot of people, I mean, I think we were expected to be, 13th out of 16th in the Big 12, and we ended up I think, tied for second.
Yeah.
Which is pretty exciting. And so it makes me very excited for next season. Definitely the highs and lows. I always like to joke that I need to get in contact with a cardiologist because my heart rate just goes through the roof whenever I'm watching my team. So if anyone knows any good cardiologists, feel free to let us know because we might need them.
J-Lo has one. Anyways, no, same. If you have any recommendations, we'll need it for sure. And I guess a question for all of you: what has been your favorite play, favorite game, whatever from? Well, I guess if it's football, like last season, and if it's a sport that's currently playing, like the current season, we want to know. I want to look it up. I want to just kind of see what's your hot take on favorite or best play this year so far.
Yeah, we want to see them all.
And then we want this podcast to be a conversation. So, like we were saying before, we don't want it to just be us talking at you at a microphone, or just talking at our producer.
Thanks, Carl.
Thanks, Carl. Shout out. Sorry. So we'd love to hear from all of you guys, and we have a couple different platforms that you can do that at.
Yeah. And we're hoping in the future to invite some guests to come join us, so you don't have to hear just our opinions, but you'll also get to hear a variety of opinions and thoughts. So hopefully you can hear from, if you want to be a guest, let us know.
Let us know. Send us a 5-page essay. Just kidding. Don't do that. But yeah, we want to hear from everybody. We love broadening the perspective on certain plays, shedding some light on areas that are dark right now, and maybe what it was like for you watching the game, or just like an inside scoop to the fans' perspective. But we'll have all of this in like the description box. You can follow us on Instagram, on TikTok, on Spotify, on Apple Podcasts, on YouTube. If we're missing something, let us know. But we'll start with those basics for now.
So that's kind of it for today. Kind of short and sweet, and hopefully in the future we'll kind of open it up. But next episode, we're hoping, with March Madness coming up, my favorite time of year, we're hoping to give just maybe some insights, our kind of thoughts, maybe a couple of teams to look out for. We'll tell you number one, BYU is definitely one of those teams to look out for, but again, we are biased.
Just a little bit.
Just a little bit. But just some of our thoughts going into March Madness and the big college basketball tournament.
Yeah. So until then, thanks for listening, or thanks for watching, and we'll catch you in the next episode. Bye!